Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Drafted Pages podcast. I'm your host, Nick Krasinski, with my great friend, Corbin. Been a long time coming getting you on this thing. Needed to get you before you head south to Fort Worth to move locations. Not too far away, but, not within the usual driving distance. So, happy to have you on, man. How you doing?
I appreciate it. Yeah, this is been we've been looking to find a time that would actually work for something like this, and finally we got it. So doing great. Yeah, just getting ready to move. We were talking about that before. But
Yeah. It's exciting and also, can be stressful moving.
yeah, no, it definitely is. But it should be fun. I'm moving in with my sister, so be good to get her out of the house and get her, spread her wings a bit so that she can figure out what she likes, what she doesn't like. So yeah, exciting times.
Some good quality time,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll see how that dynamic grows, especially since we kind of lived together back in the day. There was a lot of fighting and stuff, but we're grown adults now.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
When we lived
Yeah,
together,
previously.
so this was 2018. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of growth and maturity.
Oh,
I'm
for
sure,
sure,
on
for
both
sure.
ends.
Yeah, been in and out of college, so that'll make somebody grow for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, you have to keep us, and by us, I mean me, Cam, and the boys,
Yeah.
posted on the move and everything like that. But yeah, glad we could grab you before that happens. Just wanted to dive into you, your story, your faith.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about politics because you and I vibe pretty well.
There's a
off of that.
lot to talk about there.
There's a lot to talk about that's going on in the world. But to kick things off, I always like to dive into people's story and their relationship with God. First time on. And we've been doing community group for a better part of almost 2 years now.
That's how I met you.
Yeah, and that's how we met through Vasco. Shout out Vasco.
Yeah, shout out V.
Um, and yeah, it's just been a blessing having you in my life, being able to go through all of that. And I know some of your story from all of that, but a lot of other people don't. And I
Right.
think it's also really important that we use these platforms to share because you
Mhm.
never know the person you might touch and the impact it might have.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, you take as much time as you want, but I'd love to, hear about kind of how you found God, maybe a little bit of your testimony there, and kind of like what your walk looks like with Him now.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess we can start from the beginning. I mean, growing up, I just grew up in a Christian household. That I don't want to sound like a typical cookie cutter relationship with God and the walk with that, but yeah, I grew up in a Christian household. Shout out my mom. Shout out my dad for helping me grow up in a household like that had strong Christian values, and I guess just like growing up, it was very, I guess I saw my walk with God and with faith as very just like, going to church on Sundays, going to Bible class on Wednesday, more of like a schedule than anything. And that kind of like took me into, that was kind of the most of my relationship with God just growing up when I was younger. And, it was one thing to, believe in God. Like I did believe in God, but I didn't really like have my own relationship with Him, as a lot of younger people don't, and they usually take on the relationship or the faith that their parents have. And so that kind of just guided me throughout high school, middle school, growing up. And then getting to college is where you kind of get, you have that turning point where you can kind of take it where you want it to go. And that's where I really started testing my faith, like as a individual and as a person, kind of outside the guidance of my parents and stuff like that. And as you probably heard before, there's a lot of things that happen in college where you're like, that was probably not the best thing to do, especially for someone who says they believe in God and stuff. So it was just a very, I guess, like trial and error with my walk with God throughout kind of that development stage of my life. And I would say I was still, close to God. I was still, pursuing qualities and the things that He, preaches in the Bible, and the things that I was kind of wanting to do as well. But at the same time, there was like, I wasn't really, I wasn't like, I guess 110% into my journey with God and like wanting to do that, as like a part of who I am, like full time.
Like kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah, very just lukewarm, like on the fence, like how we've talked about before in some of our meetings. So yeah, it was just very it was a good time, and then got to a point where graduated college, and I was like, now what? So like I had all of this stuff that I had a lot of friends and I had a lot of activities that I was involved in, especially like Stumo, for example, was a big one that or Wings and Wisdom, which was a something we did within our fraternity where we'd meet once a week and just have faith-based conversations. And it's like it was great to have those things, during college, which kind of kept me on the right track. But at the same time, once you get out of that environment and out of college, then it's like, what's next? Like you have things that you're just like on your own, and you kind of have to figure it out yourself. And that brought me down like kind of like a hard path with just like my career. Like I wasn't happy with the first job that I got. I mean, I just gotten out of a relationship, and there was just like a lot of even like health issues that I was kind of struggling with, and I was trying to control a lot of that stuff, kind of just on my own and by myself. And it wasn't until like I would say the past like year or 2 years where it's just been like, okay, I'm gonna let God handle most of this stuff. And like it really gets to a point where you're done trying to fix the things that you think you can fix. Like for example, like with my job, I was just so unhappy with what I was doing, and I was looking for any way out of that job and just trying to do different things and stuff that would maybe be more fulfilling for me. But at the same time, it just like I didn't know where my direction was headed. And so really God has just like lifted a lot of stuff off my shoulder. And especially when it comes down to me wanting to expand my own faith rather than let someone else try to expand that for me, and really I guess like go out of my way to figure out, okay, who is God, and like what is he gonna do to help me, and like how can I approach him, and I guess just follow him. And so I would say it's been a very, very positive, I guess the past like 1 or 2 years, it's just been a very positive environment for me to have something like our community group that we've established. When when did we like first start? Was it like 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was in the fall, so we're coming up on 2 years in like September, I want to say, because I moved out here in June, and it was right around the time that like I got close with Vasco and started going to Watermark with him, and that I started going to Watermark full time in like October, and we were doing community group before that. So
But I met you like the first time we did community group,
yeah,
right?
the very
Okay.
first time we met, yeah,
Okay.
was our first meeting.
Yeah. And so just like, man, there was just a lot of things that like I was kind of isolating myself a lot after college, because I was just, I don't know, man. It's just very difficult to be an adult, and like when you're not forced to go interact with people, or really even forced to interact with God or the church, like you just stop like it just it takes more than just being somebody telling you to go do it for you to want to build your faith and want to grow it. So that's where I struggled a lot, was really putting myself out there to be proactive about my faith. And then once I started taking an inch towards God, he was like coming back at a mile. So it was I saw a lot of things in life just like flip upside down for me, and it's just been an awesome journey, to where we are now. It's just he's blessed me with so many things in life, blessed me with my relationships, and my career. It's just taken a whole like 180 turn since I've just let go of all that control.
I moved towards God an inch, and he came back a mile. Dude,
Yeah.
that's bolt to bolt material right there.
It's off the dome.
Yeah, that was clean. No, I appreciate you sharing that. You hit on a lot of good stuff there. I want to unpack a little bit of it.
Yeah.
I think the first point that you kind of tied into was having that foundation at college, and then leaving that, just kind of making it more difficult to seek out that relationship with God. And I think that just speaks to how important community is. And I mean, something that Watermark stresses a lot, but I feel a lot of churches are really pushing for that, and for a reason, right? Because God wants us to engage with Him on a personal level, but we need people surrounding us who are like-minded believers that can encourage us, can help us, the power of confession, right? All of that stuff that we experience in a community that you can't get alone, right? So I think that's really good, really important. What would you say for someone that was like in your shoes, now that you've gotten to the community and you have this foundation under you? What would you say to somebody who, like myself, who may have moved somewhere new, may not have a community, but is looking for something? Like, how do you take that first step towards finding that, and embracing that sort of uncomfortableness that might come with that?
Yeah, first I would really, obviously the initial answer is like you always want to get plugged in, so always finding, a church, like if you're just brand new in an area, finding a church that you vibe with, because when I first moved to Dallas, I moved by myself. I didn't know anybody here. And what I meant about like being plugged in is like I went to multiple different churches in the area, and like none of them really I vibed with until I went to Watermark, and I was like, okay, like there's a lot of young adults here, a lot of people my age that I feel like I could interact with, or I could be that are just, we have a lot of similar things or commonalities together. And also, I mean, I would say that the fraternity that I joined in college really helped as well, because like I said before, we did have the Wings and Wisdom, which was that one day a week where we just met and just had more faith-based spiritual conversations. And I think that challenged a lot of people who went, because a lot of people that did go weren't they weren't believers, and they were just wanting to just either get free wings or just hang out with their brothers. But I mean, it still was great to have something like that. So I just think, man, just like you said, the whole community aspect of it, you need to get plugged in as quick as possible, because I mean, like I was saying during my testimony, it's like once you get to a point where you aren't being proactive about searching for God or for searching for those people, then it's gonna be very difficult for you. So just being very proactive about your outreach and finding friends that you aren't necessarily believers, but you're like, hey, let's go to church, or like let's go do something else rather than drinking. So that's something that I've been wanting to approach my relationships and my friendships with, and I would say it's treated me well. I mean, there's a lot of people that you wouldn't expect to not be in your life anymore just based off of those decisions, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and that is sometimes a hard transition, is cutting people out of your life when you make that decision, that step to like go all in with God,
Right.
because a certain part of your life, the fleshly life that you were living, is no more.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not a personal thing though, because it's like, I still like to be around you. I still like to spend time with you, but it's just like, we don't have the same priorities. And I don't know. I feel like that's something that a lot of young adults are starting to realize when, people like our age are coming out of college, and they're not happy with those people that they hang out with, and they're not happy with themselves.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, it's not personal. It's just like my walk in life is different than yours, and on a lot of different levels. Like, I don't have as much going out to eat money because I'm tithing with my church. I don't have the desire to stay up on a Friday, Saturday night and drink till the sun comes up the next day, because I'm not going to give into my flesh that way. It's not healthy. I got church on Sunday, right? Like all that stuff. So yeah, just the change, and it doesn't affect you. Maybe it affects your relationships with those people, because you're changing and growing in a different way than they're changing and growing, but it doesn't mean you care for them any less.
I totally agree with all of that. And I mean, it's just you're outgrow. I wouldn't even say you're outgrowing. You're just growing in different directions, and I mean that's totally healthy to do that as well. I mean, you outgrow people all the time, and it's like God put them, in the place in your life for a reason, and look where you're at now. Like I wouldn't change anything about the relationships or the friends that I've had, because I'm happy with where I am now and how God has just blessed me so much with my life and the things around it. So
Yeah. Every interaction had a purpose.
for sure.
Um, I wanted to talk about your kind of growth with faith. It's something that I've really admired in thinking about doing this episode was just how when you first came to the community group, when we first started it, right? To like where you are now, like when we meet, you come like fired up, especially if you're leading. Like I know it's gonna be a good talk. Like
I
you have the
appreciate that.
notes planned. Like you talk about all the time, like your prayer life, like how
Yeah,
you're getting
man.
into the Word, just like the daily habits you have now in your faith and everything like that. I just think it's such a beautiful thing to reflect on. As our boy Gerald,
Yo, what's up, G?
piece of the background, looking clean. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to like talk about that a little. Like, how have you changed over the past year or two, and kind of like your engagements with God, and kind of like your daily, like feeding of your soul with that?
Dude, it's been exponential. I would say I remember the first time that we met for our community group and we talked about what we wanted to get out of our community group and like what stuff we wanted to work on, and I was like, "Man, I really want to be able to like pray with people." I remember, if you remember me saying that, like I just struggled like wanting to have confidence with like praying with other people, and was like worried that I wouldn't know what to say and stuff like that. But I mean, it's just so much simpler than that. Like it's not a performance. Like it's just more of just a heart thing and like whatever comes to mind. Like, you know, your thoughts are not your own; they're God's. So I mean, or they come from the enemy sometimes. So you got to be able to, decipher that. But I mean, yeah, dude, my faith growth has been exponential. I would say, um, thanks to you, Vasco, and Cam for especially like expediting that, because like I don't think I would have been able to do this just by myself, because this community group has definitely just held me accountable for a lot of the things that I struggle with. And even the weeks where I'm having to lead, I know that I'm going to have to come prepared with something. So I might as well, dive into the Word and be, surrounded with God, to try to figure out what I'm gonna lead for or lead with that week. So yeah, man, it's just, I mean, as stuff started like piling on, it was just like one thing after another. I was like, well, I might as well start praying more. And then I saw like the benefits and the pros of praying more and the power of prayer. And I'm like, man, as I'm like learning more and more, like there's power in the words that you speak. Like, you know, the, what is it, like your tongue is the sharpest weapon or something.
Something like that.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. And it's just like a lot of these things, like, dude, this world is so spiritual, and it's like once you start to realize that and you understand that, God's power trumps over everything, it's just you just can't not want to be a part of it. So it's awesome, man. I'm just thankful that it's starting to grow in, my relationship with God, and my relationship with Corinne, and I'm wanting it to be more apparent in just like my daily interactions with my friends or whoever I'm interacting with. Like I just want to be able to just like proclaim His name.
Yeah.
So it's just it's exciting, man, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. Yeah, and I think you touched on a good point there, like in the community group, like holding each other accountable, pushing each other, like in the same way that we've helped you, like everybody's helped me, we've helped Cam, Vasco, like all in the same way. It's just like, hey, like you're struggling with this area of sin, like let's help set up boundaries, let's set up guardrails, let's put blockers on where we need to put blockers on, let's like, try to incentivize a little and just hold each other accountable, hold each other to a higher standard. Because we all struggle. Like even once you take that step to really pursue God with everything you have, it doesn't eliminate you from sin. If
Right.
anything, it makes it harder because the enemy's like,
Dude,
I
yes.
lost one, I got to bring him
Yes.
back.
Yeah,
So I mean, he's still gonna have the same tricks. So it's you're still gonna struggle, but you're not struggling alone.
I think that's when you start to realize that you're growing, towards God, is when more trouble is headed your way, because the enemy knows that it's like, hey, we're about to lose this guy. We need to get after him. And it's like that's when you should realize like spiritual warfare is no joke, and it gets way harder the more that you pursue God.
Yeah, for real. No, that's a good point. You almost set it up beautifully for a transition as you were talking about God's power and Trump. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I when I said that, I was like, yeah, that's a good transition.
it is. It is. Um, let's dive into that a little because you and I we talk about politics usually as we're waiting for people to show up for community group or things like that. Especially nowadays, there's
Yeah,
just
it's usually
so much craziness going on.
we put on our tinfoil hat for sure. But I mean, not really nowadays. It's
Yeah.
kind of for real, but
Yep, a little for real. Yeah, there's so much has happened. So much is going on. I guess in recent news, by the time this comes out, there's probably even more craziness
Yeah.
that's gonna happen.
some every day.
But I'd love to get your insight on the two major events of the Trump assassination and then Biden stepping down via like a tweet, like
In his AI generated speech.
AI generated speech. Like there's just so much craziness going on. It's like we are literally living in unprecedented times. It
Yeah.
feels like every year something new and crazy is going on.
Dude, I think we live in like GTA sometimes. Like something like that. Like it's just like how could this even be real life? How is this reality?
Yeah, I asked my dad that when I was home in Philly the other week for work. I was like, "Hey, like, because the assassination attempt that just happened," and I was like, "Hey, like, has it when you were growing up? Was it always like this freaking crazy every year? Like something happening that
Yeah.
like feels like it's never happened before?
Yeah.
Like COVID, like the border crisis,
Yeah.
Ukraine war, now an assassination attempt on a former president. It's
Right.
like it just feels like it's a Jumanji game that we're just playing in real life.
The comment that I always hear all the time is like I'm tired of living through canon events. Like it's just like can we stop?
Yeah, it's like someone's writing a script to a TV show.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I gotta put in the next like spoiler or cliffhanger.
Yeah,
or
dude.
Craziness to like ramp it up. For
But
the
that's
next
another
season.
conspiracy theory is the Simpsons and how they can predict that. So maybe it is a script.
Dude, it could be. It could be. But no, I think it's a lot of craziness going on. It's gonna be a wild next few months here with the election coming up.
On my birthday, dude.
It's on your birthday.
November 4th,
Oh,
election day.
dude.
Either the best or worst
So,
birth.
dude, I mean, I'm honest. Like, if it goes blue again here with Kamala, like,
We're in trouble.
dude, if Kamala wins, if Biden won, like, I would still have had doubts in this year's election again. But like, if Kamala wins after all this craziness, like, there is something being played because there is no way she's gonna win enough electoral votes. And
Here's the thing, bro. Here's the thing. If you think Biden has been running the country for the past 2 or 3 years, like you're naive.
yeah,
You're crazy.
completely agree.
Like he has just been used as a puppet, as a front man to do, whoever is running behind the scenes, like they're just using that as the scapegoat. And like it's to look at how the country is run now and the results of their agendas and their what they've done, it's just like gas is up, the grocery bill is up, economy is just not where it needs to be. Wars are just being the outbreak of war is just crazy nowadays. Like 2 or 3 wars that have just started up, within their 4 years of being there. It's just there's a lot of things that if you just look at it from like a factual standpoint and like logically speaking, like how could we continue 4 more years with something like that?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm somebody who's very, knows all the facts about politics and knows all the policies and stuff like that. But I'm just like, if you take a step back and just compare and contrast the different statistics and where we were then and now, it's just, dude, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's an absolute no-brainer. And also, if we're going to touch on the assassination attempt, we could talk about that all day because you're crazy if you don't think that was a setup. If you don't think that there was something more fishy going on behind.
Dude, there's clearly something going on there behind the scenes, and it's interesting to dive into it because it's still just so unknown. And I feel like it's going to be like the JFK assassination or like, all that other crazy stuff, 9/11, like
Yeah.
the crazy like conspiracy theories where there is like enough evidence there that shows, okay, this
100%.
wasn't like what the media and the world is trying to make it out to be. There's clearly something that we're not being told.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
feel like we'll ever blatantly be told. Like,
Yeah.
you look at the JFK assassination thing. It's right here in Dallas. I mean, there's people there all the time that are talking about, like, it's not the way it went down. It wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't, all that stuff.
The magic curved bullet.
All that nonsense. The 9/11 stuff. I mean, just the way the towers fell and the other buildings and like all that craziness that happened. It's the same thing here again. And
Oh, yeah.
they just like, it's almost like they foreshadow like and tell us what's going to happen like right in front of our eyes. Like when events like this happen, you go back and look, and it's like, I remember seeing like a speech or something about like Biden and Kamala like saying something about that, and then that very day when the assassination attempt happened, Biden's like Twitter had posted something about like
Wasn't it like
guns.
wasn't Biden like we need to put a target on Trump's back or something like that?
Yeah. And it's like they say it right in front of our face, and it's like we see it. Like,
Dude, regardless if you're blue or red, like something like that should never happen to a former president in the way that it happened.
Yeah.
Like that, to think that, the Secret Service had this place locked down. It's a former president who is giving a speech. Like, I don't care, dude. You've done days of investigation and research of like, okay, there could be somebody here. There's a vantage point here, here, and here, and like, there's no way that 20-year-old kid could get past FBI, local police, Secret Service, and be 150 yards away from President Trump.
Yeah, it's a joke, and like you said, whether you're blue or red, like, it doesn't matter. It should never happen to anybody of like that standing in the government. Like, if it was Biden, like, I'd have the same reaction.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Dude, there's an assassination attempt on a president. Like that's war. Like,
yeah,
and
dude, like the way that they've just tried to get rid of this man, like, you would just think that there's something else behind it. Like, it got to a point where they're basically wanting him dead, and it's like he dodged all not the allegations, but like he got raided by the FBI and all of this stuff, and then they're trying to set him up with all these felonies about, I don't even know what they were for, but like tax evasion or something. And it's like, they've tried so many different times to silence the man. They got rid of all of his like Twitter accounts that he had, and he couldn't post anything on the media. It's like there's something else behind it. If they want this guy gone like that bad, like, there's something. Deep state is wanting something else. It's crazy.
yeah, that's how I felt about it. Like, if I'm being completely honest, like, I obviously wasn't voting Biden, Kamala, but I wasn't 100% sold on Trump again. I was really liking, and I still kind of do, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I really like him a lot. I like a lot of the points he makes. I feel like he would be a really great president. But this assassination attempt on Trump and just the way it all played out is just exactly what you said. It like changed like my view. It's like, okay, they really just want this man not even.
Yeah,
around.
dude, that's like the whole like this is crazy because, yeah, man, I don't know. It's if they want this guy gone that bad, that means, and for him to still get up and still be willing to run for America, like, that has to speak volumes for the type of man this guy is. Like, regardless of the politics, like, this guy literally could have been killed that day, and he's still, like, I would say even more amped up to run now in anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you can't like look at that assassination attempt and not see like God intervene, like,
Dude.
the hand of God, like the videos of Trump's head just like at the very last second turning, and like if he didn't like do that quick little turn where like the bullet would have went, like, it's a grace of God. Like,
People are saying we jumped on a new timeline because he was supposed to die, and then they're like, since he dodged it, then like we're on a new trajectory or whatever.
well, I'd rather be on this one.
Yeah, right.
The other one, dude. I told my parents, and I told Jocelyn this too. Like, if Trump would have been assassinated then, because I had a trip to Philly the very next day, for work. I would not have felt comfortable flying because I feel like this country would have went into an all-out like war.
Yeah, I
Like,
think, yeah, 100%.
There would like storm the Capitol day, whatever. Like
January 6th.
Yeah, it would have been 10 times worse than that. I feel like. I feel like there would have been such an outroar and outrage in this country that like I sometimes think we're on the brink of civil war.
Oh, 100%.
With the way things are going, and if that would have happened, I think it would have just tipped the scales.
The one thing that sealed the deal for me with the Trump assassination attempt was finding out that this investment firm called, I don't know if you've heard about it, the Austin Wealth Group or something, they shorted Trump's media stock like by, I think it was 122,000 shares the day before he was supposed to speak. Like, dude, that's crazy.
Dude, you can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't. Like how, and that company is backed by BlackRock too.
Of course. Yeah. Who owned the building? Yeah.
How? Why are you shorting it? I think. Do you remember the GameStop shortage?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they were doing that, the hedge funds were doing that. They only shorted, I think, 16,000 shares. This company did 122,000 shares to short. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That is a crap
That means
ton.
they were basically confirming that he was going to die that day.
Yeah.
So,
and the same dude, like the same, and that's what I'm saying. History repeats itself, and they do it right in front of our face. And when you add up facts like that are undeniable, like that happened, like you have, if you're a rational person, whether you like Trump or not, like you have to look at that and think, okay, something is off here.
Right.
Something doesn't make sense.
right.
And it's the same thing that happened 9/11. Like I forget the guy's name who owned the towers, but he literally took out an insurance policy against the towers, like $1 billion insurance policy. You can look this up, against the towers, like collapsing, specifically in the insurance by being hit by a plane.
No
And
way.
It was like the day before it happened, bro.
No
It
way.
was like $1 billion insurance on it. It was specifically for that. And it's
That
like,
is nuts,
it's the same
man.
thing. It's like, of course, like,
Yeah.
you know, like it's right in front of our faces.
You just got to follow the
You just-
money.
Yeah, follow the money. Follow the money, you'll get to the answer. It's
And the
always-
whole another thing that they're talking about now is the insider trading thing. Like I think that should have never happened. Like congressmen and women should not be able to deal with any dealings within the stock market because they have the inside knowledge. So that also leads me into the, I don't know, my brain is going off, but it's like, dude, like if you look at all the past presidents and if you look at their value as a person, like their what do you call it? Their net worth. If you look at the past presidents, last 5, like if you look at Clinton's, for example, President Clinton's, his went up like insane amounts from when he got into office, when he got out of office. Like, I don't think as a president you should be giving yourself a salary, or you shouldn't be gaining that much of a net worth, bonus coming out of office like that, because then you it just doesn't make sense. Like that's not what you're in office for. Yeah. And I think Trump was the only one to lose money, lose net worth. He didn't take a salary. So I think that's another thing. Like just follow the money.
Yeah, and like that's the thing that's changed so much over the decades of America being around. It's like government office positions, whether it's the president or local government, it never was supposed to be about the money. It's about like service and like your sacrificial like time helping serve your community, whether that's the nation or a small town or a state, right? And like it was never about the money, and now it's completely shifted and it's all about the money. It's all about power, and it's all about these big companies like BlackRock and Vanguard who own everything. They own all the media, they own all the food you eat, they own the water you drink, they own the houses you live in. Like they own everything, and it's just about them grabbing more control and having more power and having more money and like building like this gap between them and the rest of the country.
Because I mean, they look at us as citizens as like a profit. Like they basically, like you were saying, they control the food, they control basically everything within America, right? And so if they're poisoning us, in our food, then we're going to the doctors, and then they're prescribing us, drugs that will make us, feel better. Like the side effects will feel better, but it's like they're not getting to the main cause of the sickness. So then you're going back and you feel better, then you start eating that crap again, and then you got to go back, and it's a whole cycle, and we're basically just money. We're a profit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they want to poison the food, so you have to go get pills that which are more poisonous, just help temporary, never solve the issue. And it's just a repeated cycle, and then like the air you breathe, like everything is just so effed up.
And that's the whole thing about like what I've seen about Kamala's mission, and like what she's like, what her whole theme of her running is like we have to stop Trump. We have to stop this guy. And it's like, what? Okay, like you're trying to stop this guy, but what about America? What about the country? Like I understand that, you're going to get more votes, and you're going to get to, the people who you're trying to reach by preaching this message, right? But at the same time, like, you've been in office for how long? And like, this is the first time that we've seen you since you got elected, like, as vice president. Dude, I don't know, man. It's fishy.
Yeah, dude, it sucks, and it's so unfortunate because it feels like it wasn't that long ago, like when we were kids, where we could have civil discourse and
Oh,
still
yes.
be okay. Like that's one of my biggest problems nowadays is that the country has done such a good job of dividing us, right or left, red or blue,
Oh, yeah.
pro life, like non pro life, like all that stuff. It's like there used to be a time, and I think back, it was like right before the Trump election, so it would have been 2012,
Right.
Obama and McCain.
Yeah.
Was that it? I remember like people voting, and the question you would ask somebody was, "Did you vote today?" And it was like a yes or no. It was like, if you didn't, go vote because your vote matters. It's important. You should go vote. If you did, if you said yes, it was like, okay, good job. Like, way to exercise your right. After the Trump Hillary thing, it was, who'd you vote for? It was like, oh, you voted for Trump? Like, you're a racist bigot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not talking to you. You voted for Hillary? Oh, you're a moron, like.
Right.
And so it just, like, became this huge divide, and it's just continued in all of our other areas of culture, of life. And the country's done a great job of doing that, and it's just a continued problem. And it's part of the reason why I feel like there's been almost a revival in faith, especially in our generation. It's like the people who are now able to vote and have a voice and are like working real world jobs and have real world problems and bills. Like we actually are now paying attention to all this stuff and grew up in a time where it was different, and now we're like worse off than where we were as kids, where our parents were at the same time.
I think the whole divide is exactly what they have been trying to get us to do for so long, is because you're so easily controlled if you can get people into, different divisions of something, and it's harder to control, a unified mass of people, right? And so I think that can go in, and we can talk about like the whole just like social media aspect of it all, and how people are just this becomes their personality of like who they are. And you hear one thing, and I mean, I'm very um, let's just say I've done this before, where I'll look at a video or something, I'm like, oh, that you shouldn't believe everything you see on the internet, right? And I've been convicted of that. So but I do think that we've just lost like having our own opinions and having critical thinking skills to be like, yeah, let's really dive into that, see if that's actually true, And yeah, man, I think social media has done a good thing for, I guess, our population and our generation, getting us the information and the news that we would not normally see on TV. Like I see most of my news on TikTok.
Same.
And so it's crazy to think that we're getting more news from a China-owned company rather than, our own media, right? Yeah. And how that's controlled and stuff like that. So I think it's just very, I also think that the cons of social media, you could talk about that all day, but it's still people will push propaganda and push things that, a lot of naive people are going to believe.
Yeah, and social media does a lot of good at like connecting people globally, getting news out quickly, um, and things like that. But it is very toxic, and like you said, we really have as a society lost our ability to critically think, to ask questions, and to actually go investigate and find out those answers. And then when we have conversations on this, it's like if you and I disagreed, like we're both mature enough and wise enough to like have a conversation with somebody from the opposite belief, like somebody who's a non-Christian. Like we could talk about faith and like what that means to them and why they don't believe in God and things like that. We're not going to judge them any different. We're not going to be rude towards them or anything like that. Like we've lost the ability to have conversations with people who have the different opinion.
Yeah, dude. I remember during COVID, I had posted something on my Instagram story, and it was something about like I can't remember what it was, but it was like a graph or a statistic of you know COVID cases in some state versus like the flu. I posted that on my story. You would not believe the amount of like hate that I got, and people
I
were
do
just
believe
like
it.
just like berating me, and they're like calling me insensitive, calling me stupid, like it's like if you don't follow the agenda, then you're just an idiot.
Yeah.
So sorry that I'm trying to think for myself or trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong type of thing. So
Yeah, like anytime you post something that's like pro-life or
Yeah.
against like COVID or for Donald Trump, all the people who are so against that stuff come flooding in to like criticize you or like call you out on it.
right,
But when they post their stuff all the time, it's like, gosh forbid we ever did that. Like,
yeah,
and we don't because we don't really care because like that's your opinion.
Right.
You can have that opinion.
exactly.
So,
And I mean, come to find out now that a lot of hospitals were just reporting COVID cases just so that they could get more government
Yep.
funding. Makes sense now, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, my grandfather on my dad's side, he actually passed away during COVID,
Okay.
and it wasn't like a COVID related death,
Right.
but they like marked him as like a COVID death,
Which
It was,
is
like,
insane, dude.
exact same thing.
It's
And
crazy.
my dad was like furious about
That's
it. It was just
disrespectful,
like,
dude.
Yeah, dude, it was
Very
like,
disrespectful.
so messed up. And yeah, it was just like that whole. I feel like that could be a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Diving into what happened with COVID.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do miss it a little. I miss the little lockdown.
Yeah.
The
I mean, no, yeah.
the
I
family
feel-
time.
Dude,
know,
that's the one thing. So, I mean, I was a sophomore in college when that happened, and I got to move back home, and not gonna lie, it was great. Didn't have to pay for food,
Yep.
didn't have to pay for rent, and I was just sitting there playing Call of Duty every day and maybe an hour of schoolwork.
yeah,
That's
real.
it.
For real.
So
It did bring some nice aspects to it.
yeah,
I think that some families took advantage of when it came to like reconnecting, or some people got really out of shape, some people got really big into shape.
right. And I think I also heard that it surfaced a lot of like stuff in marriages as well that they had been just neglecting for a long time, and then they're locked into a house together, and they're like, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" So
Yeah,
yeah,
a lot of babies out of that too.
Yeah,
'cause,
yeah.
What else you gonna do?
right, right,
But-
exactly.
No, man, this country, man, it's headed for. It feels like it's headed towards an end in one way or another, and it definitely feels like it hinges on this election.
I don't know about you, but for me, for me, it's just like this election, this November is like make or break, I would say, for a lot of where we're headed for the future, and like how, this is probably going to establish exactly what's going to happen, moving forward.
Yeah, Jocelyn and I are getting married in November, and I told her, and this was before like Biden stepped down, so I feel a little bit better about the situation now. But when he was still running for the Democratic side, I was like, if Biden gets elected again, you and I need to have a serious conversation about living somewhere else for the next 4
Yeah.
years. Because like I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could take it
Right.
here for another 4 years with all the craziness, the prices of everything. Like, I have a fully remote job. Like, I theoretically could go anywhere else
Exactly.
in the country,
Yeah.
and or the world, and just go work, and it's cheaper. So Justin may not even have to work then.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, like, it's crazy, dude. I would never have thought in a million years that like I would actually like be contemplating leaving America just so I can like live and feel
Exactly.
secure.
Right. Yeah, that's a scary reality we might have to face. And I mean, you see it all the time, celebrities and stuff on social media, like, oh, if Trump gets elected, then I'm gonna move out of here. It's like, okay, bye, like,
Yeah.
see ya, like, we're not gonna miss you, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe same way for us, but it's like still like, yeah, dude, it's crazy.
It is. It's wild times. Wild times. But yeah, that's why we got God, man.
Yeah, and that's what we need at the forefront of everything. And we have lost that in so many different ways of our government and basically our foundation of a country. Like one nation under God, and we've lost that. So,
Yeah, we were never like a nation built on Christianity, but it definitely had its roots
yeah.
in so much of our culture, especially when the country first started. And I mean, yes, there was still slavery and things like that.
Yeah,
We
I
weren't-
mean,
they weren't
yes, of
perfect,
course.
right? But there was still like that foundational aspect of like, there's a servitude aspect of humanity and helping one another, and it's not about money, it's not about greed,
Right.
and it just has completely flipped on its head over the past few years. So,
Sure.
but the good news is there is a revival, and the real king's coming back.
For sure,
And,
man. Praise
you know,
God.
I can just wait on it.
Yeah, dude. It's gonna be a great time, and I'm just like thankful for everything that he's done and that he's just working, in our country. I pray that every day, every chance that I get, that he just he is with the people who can make the decisions, and that it's headed towards a God-centered, decision, or somewhere where this country is headed, that it is God-centered. So.
Yep, I agree. We touched on a lot, touched on the faith, touched on a whole bunch of politics in the world in this
Yeah.
country. Is there anything, I always close out my episodes with my guests. Is there anything you want to touch on, you want to speak on in the next couple of minutes as we begin to close things out? If you got nothing, that's cool too.
Yeah, that's a
But
good.
the floor is yours if you,
I got a question.
okay.
Do you think that tolls should be illegal?
Like
highway tolls?
I mean, I hate them. I understand why they're there,
Why are they there?
to make money for the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about like the taxes that we pay for like infrastructure and stuff?
But that's the thing. Like, Texas doesn't really have a state income tax.
Oh, true.
So
Maybe I'm stupid.
in Texas, I don't mind with the tolls.
Maybe I'm tired of getting drafted $20 on my account like every
time?
2 weeks.
It's weird. Like, I feel like I've used the tolls a good amount, especially since Jocelyn moved back here, and I don't remember it being like
Really?
recharged. And it's on auto, like once it goes below.
Yeah,
a certain
yeah. I
amount.
still have that too.
So you just reminded me to check it, but
Maybe
yeah,
I just have PTSD from my dad being like, "What's this charge? $6.35, $13."
dude, it is brutal. Like, some parts of Texas are insane.
Yeah.
Like when it goes through tolls, and Pennsylvania has really bad tolls too. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's ridiculous if you take the expressway anywhere up there. I got dinged when I drove back home, I think from Texas back to Pennsylvania. I like went through one. I guess I didn't even realize. Thought I had it on no tolls, and then I didn't know I got charged until I went and got my mail from my old apartment for like a year. They still had all of it.
No.
And I saw a thing in there, and I went online to pay it, and it should have been like $7, but because of like all like the
Yes.
penalties, it was like $45.
Oh my! I
Like,
think
I was
that's the thing
crying.
that pisses me off, dude. Is like the penalties that they give you and stuff, that you're like, oh, if you don't pay by this date, then it's gonna be $10 per day that you don't pay, and it's like, dude, come on.
Send me an email.
Yeah.
Or call me.
Yeah,
Well,
well, they
since
do
it's-
that for a reason,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
they're like, oh, let's just make sure he forgets about it and just let it accrue.
Yep. Exactly.
It's crazy.
That's a good topic though. Tolls.
Yeah,
That's funny.
tolls should be illegal in my opinion.
You got anything else?
Excited for the bachelor trip. I've been waiting for that.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
hype, dude.
Month away, dude.
I'm gonna be basking. I'm
Yeah.
ready. I get to the we've been joking about this all the time. I fly into Florida. I think at like what was it, like 7 a.m., 9 a.m. or
Yeah,
something
I think you
like that?
land around like 9:30.
Yeah, and nobody else is getting there till like noon.
The
So
earliest, yeah.
yeah,
Next
or
person.
yeah, and I'm just gonna be. I guess the joke is I'm gonna be on the beach with my suitcases, just wait for everybody.
Yeah, you're gonna have a nice tan by the
yeah,
time everyone
yeah,
else
yeah.
shows up. You know?
Yeah, it should be fun.
Have the beach location all scouted out. And
Yeah.
Prepared for everybody else.
Yeah, I'll be like, that's the spot right there. I'll go get the chairs set out and get the tent ready.
Need it.
Yeah.
You need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for it though. I was telling Jocelyn, I'm like, I am in desperate need for just a day on the beach. Just
Yeah.
like I just want to sit and do nothing, just chill in the sand, like have some music playing and just relax.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
I need that.
It's gonna be fun, man. Yeah, I'm excited for that. But other than that, this has been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll run this back. Like I
sure.
said, Fort Worth ain't that far.
No.
And I was telling Cam off script the last time he was here. I was like, dude, we should do like couples one.
Dude, that would be fun.
feel like it'd be fun.
I would really love to get into like the nitty gritty of couples and relationships and God-centered relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of questions and that'd be fun, dude.
Yeah, it'd be cool to bounce questions off each other, like
Especially like
how we
newly
handle
married
things.
couples versus like people who are wanting to get to that stage.
Yeah.
Like what that looks like.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great.
Let's do
episode
it, bro.
topic. Let's do it.
Put it on the calendar.
Let's run it. All right. Well, that'll probably wrap everything up for today. Appreciate you coming on, bro.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I
Happy
really
you were
appreciate
able
it.
to do this.
Yeah.
And we'll run it back soon.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Peace.
Cheers.